Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders with Marketing Huddle, and today we have with us Pat Rigsby, who is a coach to entrepreneurs. And I just wanted to welcome you, Pat, to the program because I'm looking forward to learning more about what your business does. And I think it's always interesting when you see that you coach entrepreneurs. Boy, there's a whole vast array of what all that can entail. So I would like to ask you, for starters, what was your entrepreneurial journey? What got you started down this path?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. My journey, it's been kind of a long and winding road, I guess. Initially, I was actually a college baseball coach and taught at a university, and then decided I wanted to get into the private sector and own my own business. I think I figured out I wasn't really cut out to be an employee. So I started a small fitness-based business, and it went very well. Started a second location, started to kind of expand into teaching what had gone well in those two locations online, and it just kind of snowballed. And over the next decade, launched or acquired over 30 different businesses in the fitness and sports performance industries, primarily everything from being a franchisor with about 265 locations to equipment companies to drop ship food across the country, like in dry ice, to education companies, you name it, a little bit of everything. And so that was kind of what got me down this path. And then, about 2.5 years ago, I sold the bulk of it and just focused my energies on the coaching side. And so that's where I spend the bulk of my time now.
So basically, you've learned the ropes, and then you learn some mistakes, and you learn how to overcome those, and then it's like, now I've got a proven system, I've got a proven plan, blueprint, and how can I help more people than just, my business here and then the next business that I start. So I love how when I hear that, so many times people say, I just wanted to give more, serve more, give back to the industry, and then that's where the coaching comes in, because that's not consulting, doing it for someone, it's coaching, coming alongside someone and kind of putting your arm around them and going, here's what I did, and let's help you do the same thing.
Yeah, without a doubt. I would love to sit here and suggest that, I've just figured it all out without a bunch of bumps along the way. But, anything but was the case, So, if I can help somebody avoid some of those mistakes, help somebody maybe find the best version of what business success is to them, because I think that may be the biggest lesson that I learned along the way is the way that I would set out to measure success. It was like a moving target over time, but it might initially be hitting a certain number of clients or a certain amount of gross revenue, or getting a business into the Inc. 5000, or getting a business into the Entrepreneur Franchise 500, any of these kind of arbitrary measures, but then, ultimately kind of figuring out what my ideal business was and success was to me. And I kind of recognized that, that's not one size fits all. What success is to you, what it is to me, are two probably very different things. And so, if I could create a framework to help people build a business around their strengths, their values, their goals, and kind of go kind of arm in arm with them along the way, then that was something very appealing to me. So that's the path I've gone down.
It's interesting you said that, because I was literally minutes ago just got off of an interview that I was interviewed on for a program, and I was asked a question, what is success? And I immediately said, it's whatever you define success as. And that's what you just said, which is if I told you what my idea of success is and you told me what your idea, there'd be some similarities or threads that would run through that, but it's going to be very different. And the speaker I was talking to said he's got a friend that works a few months out of the year just for the sole purpose of being able to save up enough money to go travel for 3 and 4 and 5 months at a time. And that's this person's idea of success. Whereas someone else might say, my idea of success is to whatever, fill in the blank. So with that thought in mind, what do you define the ideal business as? Not necessarily success, but you talk to some entrepreneurs and you would say, well, we got to find the ideal client, the ideal target audience, but what do you define the ideal business as?
Well, I've kind of distilled it down to 3 things in my mind, at least. And the first is it allows you to have the professional impact that you want to have. So, be it leaving a legacy, serving a certain number or type of people, just kind of making your mark. So having the impact that you want to have professionally, certainly earning an income that is a fair exchange for the value that you're delivering. Obviously as an entrepreneur, I mean, there's a financial component, but, what that is for each person might be different. I mean, the story that you just alluded to, hey, it's enough for that person to travel the world. Well, then that's earning the income that he needs to have to be successful. And then lastly, really enjoying the lifestyle that you want to enjoy as a business owner. I mean, some people just are consumed and love to put in 70, 80 hours a week because business, it's competition for them. It's a lot of fun. Other people are, happier to spend, 30 or 40 hours a week maybe and allocate a lot of time to family, to vacation, to personal development. So whatever that lifestyle is to you, such that, you feel like, hey, my business is allowing me to do this. It doesn't own me. I'm getting to function as a business owner. So to me, if you can check all 3 of those boxes, that's your ideal business. And, obviously that's a little bit different for each person.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It reminds me of I'm sure you've seen this quote, floating around Facebook, where it says, "Oh, I remember my first 40 hours a week. I remember when I worked part-time," that kind of a thing, because you get into business for yourself and you find that it's not this box of, 9 to 5 and weekends and nights off. It is, grinding it out, and you have to realize that you have to do that and pay your dues for enough time so that you learn some nuances or tips and tricks or whatever the case is, so that now all of a sudden it is a little easier because you've kind of done it the hard way first. And I think that's a really, really big piece of it. And that's a really big piece of advice when you're coaching and working with entrepreneurs. I'm sure you communicate that to them, which is, hey, this guy that you're seeing or you're modeling or your mentor, that's wonderful, but boy, if they could tell you about the times that they, worked 90 hours a week or struggled or scraped or were grinding it out, that really is what makes you who you are today. And sometimes, it's like the story of, I forget whether it's like silver. You just got to be heated up super, super fast for all the dross to rise to the top, and then you can scrape it off. Well, the silver, you need to get it that hot so that all the impurities are out, and then number 2, so that it's stronger. Because if you left them in there, it's going to be weak. Well, if we as entrepreneurs are not, heated up in the fire of whatever, conflict or learning or grinding it out or whatever we want to call it, then we're not going to be as strong when it comes our time to kind of flourish, right? I mean, do you find that in working with your clients?
Yeah, I think that we all go through that initial kind of iteration of being an entrepreneur where it's that, 70-plus hour a week grind, and you're really in that startup mode where it kind of trumps everything else in your life. You're putting everything else on the back burner to get things built up, get things off the ground. But I'll tell you, the mistake that I see so many people make is they're 10 years in and they're still behaving like a startup. They're still doing the same exact thing and behaving in the same exact way, instead of saying, no, that was phase one. Now I'm on to phase two or phase three, where I've been able to create some leverage points in my business, where I've been able to develop some systems, where I've been able to kind of delegate and elevate my role so I can play to my strengths instead of being the jack of all trades. And it's a trap a lot of people fall into, and they look up and, they've been a business owner for 10 or 15 years, and they're essentially in the same spot they were 18 months in. And I think that there's something to be said for that journey that you talked about, that you would like to think that any journey that we go through, we're going to learn things and improve and develop skill sets and gain experiences that allow us to be better, not just like Groundhog Day, where we're just doing the same thing over and over and over.
Well, it's like the old saying, do you have 10 years of experience, or do you have 1 year of experience 10 times over? And I think that too many times people go, yay, I've attained X, and there we go, and now I'm going to coast. Well, you should always learn. You should always have a coach. You should always be bettering yourself and trying to figure out better, faster, stronger, more efficient ways of doing things. And that's a really big mindset. You should ever be the learner. Take a local college course. Take an online course. Learn, read, and implement. Don't just go, oh, that's a good idea. Have a system in place for yourself where you're, like Michael Gerber in the E-Myth says, take time to work on your business, not just in your business.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about this today is education is more accessible than ever before. I mean, somebody can listen to this interview, the array of interviews that you do. They can, gain knowledge from so many people that have had their own share of experiences, and, you're going to be able to pluck things out. You're not necessarily going to just emulate somebody, A to Z, but you're going to be able to pluck things out and say, no, that fits for me. And you're going to be able to grab from so many different sources, books, podcasts, conferences, coaching, mastermind groups, you name it. We've got more access than ever before to great information and knowledge. I mean, there's no excuse for somebody to be in the same place year after year, because, the knowledge, the experiences, the systems, all the things that you need to move forward and kind of elevate your business, your role in the business, it's all kind of at our fingertips.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And it's kind of like the old saying, if you're not moving forward, you're falling behind. And the reason for that is if you're kind of, stagnant, your competitors are moving forward. Even at a snail's pace, they're going to overtake you. So, you've got to have that aspect of always bettering and improving. And you get so used to something that it becomes, just old hat. Well, you've got to keep it fresh. And in your business, whatever business you're in, your customers, your clients, your prospects, the people in your market are going to get, kind of like tune you out when you're doing the same old. So you've got to be having fresh things and fresh experiences for the customers and delivery systems and something to keep people engaged in your brand, or else you're running the risk of being an also-ran.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we hope to serve people that have that same mentality, that they are continuing to try to improve and they're continuing to better themselves. So to keep their attention, you're going to have to do the same, because eventually, it's no different than somebody's scholastic pursuits. People graduate from each respective grade. I mean, I have a 6-year-old who just finished kindergarten, and he's not going to keep doing kindergarten-related curriculum. He's going to graduate to the next thing. So you either have to be the person to deliver that next thing, or accept the fact that you're going to have a lot of turnover in who you serve.
So what do you find when you come starting to work with a new client? What is one of the first things you are looking for, kind of in your own mind with your own internal checklist, and you're watching for these one or two things to go, let's see if there's a hole here in the bucket, or let's see if there's a crack in the process here. Kind of like, Marcus Lemonis on The Profit talks about people, process, and product. What are the couple, three things that you're watching for to go, okay, in my initial assessment, I see this, and this is what we're going to work on first. What are you watching for?
Well, the first thing that I do is, I get into a bit of a discovery phase. I ask a lot of questions that are all basically kind of tied to that, hey, what is success to you? What is what would you like your ideal business to be? Because I want their perspective, and I want to get clear on that. And most people haven't thought of it that way because they don't see more than about 3 feet in front of them. They think in terms of, well, I need to go get, this next client, or reach this next revenue target, or get through the next quarter. So I want to find out where they're trying to go, where they aspire to be, because then we can look at their current business and say, okay, are your actions or your behaviors congruent with that desired outcome? And if you tell me that, okay, I want to, generate $1 million a year at 25% margins, okay, are we doing things that are going to lead to that? Are we generating enough business to do that? Are we policing our overhead to make sure our margins are where they need to be? So, it's looking at that endpoint, determining where we are now, and then kind of building that reverse engineered map to get from, our current state to our desired outcome.
Yeah, that's a really big point, and we could probably spend 4.5 hours on that one point alone, right? Because if you don't know where you're going, how do you know when you get there? And if you don't begin with the end in mind and have a why and all those kind of buzzwords that we hear. But the point is, what are you doing? What are the top 2 or 3 things that you can do today to get you one step closer? And I remember, I'll probably butcher the example, but you probably have heard it in years past, but kind of like the Andrew Carnegie days where they brought him in, and this is back in the, industrial age where $1 really was worth $1, and they brought in a consultant and said, we need help. And so he came in for one day and he says, here's my advice, pay me what you feel it's worth. And they implemented it. It just went gangbusters for them, and they wrote him a check for like $25,000, which like today would be like $2 million or something like that. And the advice was this: at the end of every day, you write down tomorrow what you need to accomplish, the top 5 or 6 things. And then when you come in tomorrow, you don't do anything until you do number 1, and then you cross it off. And then you don't do anything else until you do number 2, and then you repeat that process. And the point with that is you are, kind of doing a pre-flight and a post-flight check, or you're doing a critical, pieces of your business, real tangible things that you have to do, and it doesn't get put on the back burner. And too many times people in business feel like, I had a busy day. Well, you just scrolled through the internet looking for this or that, or you emailed some people, or you liked a few posts. That's not working. That's not, interacting and getting in touch with people and trying to help them in their quest for success. So can you speak to a couple of the tangible things that you find that you recommend to your clients to make sure, there's some things you need to like a Facebook post here and there, but you need to make sure you're doing something tangible like these things?
Well, I think it gets back to that whole 80-20 principle, right?
Yeah.
Where, we need to look at the drivers in our business, the things that we're best at doing, the strengths that we have, and how they match what the market is. It's not enough to just play to your strengths and follow your passions or anything. I mean, there has to be a market demand, but, okay, are we spending our time on those high ROI activities? Because there's no badge of honor for being busy, right? I mean, if you're the owner of your business and you're the leader of your team and you're spending your time doing a bunch of $12 an hour tasks,
yep,
your business isn't going to succeed for very long. So, once we figure out, okay, where are we trying to go, then we can step back and get to that day-to-day. Like, okay, what are those 2 to 3 most important tasks that you need to be doing every day? Is it spending time developing your team? Is it, is it driving new leads? Is it, is it actually being active in selling? It depends on the business, obviously, but for some people, it could be as simple as, hey, most of the sales run through them, but they're only spending about 15% of their time selling. Well, maybe they need to be spending 60% of their time selling.
Yep.
Or, their team, they have high turnover and they're not getting the productivity out of their team that they need because they're not spending time developing those people so that they can create some leverage. And, so next thing you know, you're pulled into fixing things that your staff didn't do well the first time, or just stepping in to do it yourself because it's easier instead of investing that time in developing the people so that they can fill those roles and you can kind of elevate to filling the best role for you. So much of it is getting back to, okay, now we know where we're trying to go. How does that look over the next quarter or 100 days? What needs to be accomplished to move us forward the fastest? And then how do we break that down into weekly and daily tasks so yes, when you walk in the office each day, what are those 3 most important things I have to get done? And we allocate enough time to do those things, be it selling or marketing or staff development or building strategic alliances or, whatever it could be. But if we do that, then we can look up at the end of the day and say, hey, I won today. It doesn't matter if I got 20 things done on my to-do list. No, I did the 2 to 3 things that move my business forward.
That's huge, huge advice. I love it. So let's wrap up with, if someone is interested in connecting with you to see kind of some of the clarity that you can bring to their business to take them to the next level, what's the best way that they can reach out to you?
Well, the easiest way is to head over to my site at patrigsby.com. I have plenty of free, articles and resources. I do a daily newsletter. Of all things, I've written a daily newsletter for about 11 years now. So haven't missed a day yet. And it's just, tips, ideas on building your ideal business. So that's probably the easiest way to connect with me.
Excellent. Well, Pat, thank you so much for taking time today to chat. I love your approach to business, love your down-to-earth approach. I just know that you make a big impact with your clients. So thank you for taking time today.
Well, thank you, and thank you to those listening in. Hopefully we were able to together share some valuable insight that can help some people.
Great. Thank you, Pat.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.